Well, some of the best stories when we were, especially in LA, those first few years after Shark Tank, like we'd be at the truck and people would come up like, "Oh my God, you're Jim or Saban, and I saw you on Shark Tank, and this is you're here, like you did it." We're like, yeah, and you start talking to these people, and what you really oftentimes hear is like, "Oh, I had this idea, and I was going to do it too." Not a lobster truck, whatever. It could be selling pencils. I have no idea. They were going to make something and build something and start something. And the biggest difference, I always say, well, why haven't you done it? Or you haven't done it, right? Like, you still can, but you got to take a leap. That's
right.
Like the biggest thing. Is like some people talk about it, and that's okay. But like if you really want to see if it works, take the leap and figure it out.
This episode is brought to you by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, co-founder of Cousins Maine Lobster, Jim Tselikis. Jim, my man, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Feeling unstoppable every day.
You better be feeling unstoppable because this recorded 8 minutes and realized we weren't recording appropriately, so we're starting over.
Yeah. We kind of got stopped.
I can say that we're in for a treat because the first 8 minutes of the last recording was awesome. So you guys at home are in for a treat. So I came by way of Jim. Your folks reached out to me. I knew within minutes, like probably less than a full minute. Like I was like, oh, this is going to be good. The story is really interesting. You guys you scaled really fast. There's a ton of great just entrepreneur. You wrote a book about it. Like you spent time.
Wasn't a number one seller, but we wrote a book.
But the point is, like, if you spent time thinking about how you got to where you are today, so I know we're in a treat, and I cannot wait to restart this thing over. But let's get that motivational, inspirational, ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so mine's simple. It's if you're prepared, you have nothing to worry about.
Ooh, that's a good one. So if you're prepared, you have nothing to worry about. Dive into why that resonates with you.
Yeah, so this was from my high school hockey coach, and I just at the time it applied to sports and hockey, right? Whether it's something that you wanted to get better as an individual player or with the team getting ready for, a big weekend game or to have most success of trying to win, the ultimate goal of a championship. But it just reminded me every day that if you're prepared and you're doing the things along the way to prepare yourself, you will at least give yourself the opportunity for success. You'll give yourself that potential. And as my life has gone on since I was 16, and he told me that, it really works for anything. It works for schoolwork. It works for your job. It works for if you're starting your own entrepreneurial journey. Like if you're prepared, you have nothing to worry about. We use it with Shark Tank. It was really imperative to make sure you're most prepared. And I just think it's so simple, and most people don't do it. They don't even give themselves a shot. So you may not win. You may not, be the ultimate success story. But if you're prepared, you're at least going to have the shot.
And I agree 100% with that sentiment. But looking from the outside in, getting ready to get going with your restaurant, I would have assumed, knowing what I know, that you wouldn't have been prepared for opening a restaurant because you and your cousin had nothing to do with the restaurant industry before Two Cousins Lobster. That's safe to say?
Yeah.
So give myself, I already know because I asked this question 3 minutes ago, give myself and our listeners this idea of what was going on before Maine Lobster, Cousins Maine Lobster. Yeah,
so I mean, in my personal life, you mean what I was doing?
Yeah, like what were you doing? Like take us back to I know that you went to Holy Cross. Yeah. You're from Maine. Take us to the beginning. Sure. Your family.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in a small town in Maine called Cape Elizabeth. It's just east of Portland, Maine. Really small town. The joke was no streetlights, no fast food. But we were raised with a lot of love, my sister, myself, and my mom and dad, and it was just a really nice way to be brought up in Maine in general. Loved our town, and went through my freshman and sophomore year in high school there, and then I eventually went away to a boarding school New Hampshire that I did my junior and senior year at.
Not just any boarding school, Phillips Exeter Academy boarding school. Yes. And that's special for me because I went to high school in Exeter, not Phillips Exeter. I wasn't as smart as Jimmy over here. But the amazing school. So you must have been a smart kid. I'm assuming you always did well in school.
Yeah. I mean, I think I worked hard. I mean, I would be.
Or were you one of those athletic recruits they had?
I was an athletic recruit, so I was smart with my hockey stick too, But no, the reality is I cared about school just as much, my whole way through. My mom was a school nurse, so that didn't help. I always had to be on my best behavior. I had to pay attention, I had to learn, and I had to stay out of trouble. But yeah, I wanted to do as well at school or academics as I did at hockey or anything in my life, which is looking back, I'm like, maybe that's kind of part of the motivation, no matter what's kind of in front of me. So it was an honor having been able to go to Exeter, because it was still to this day two of my favorite and best academic years of my life. And then from there, I went to Holy Cross, played hockey in college in Worcester. And after that, I was living in the North End in Boston for 4 or 5 years with a bunch of my hockey buddies, and living life and having a great time.
So what was the significance of lobster? You said you grew up in Maine. It was a part of your everyday, but like, why was lobster so important to your day-to-day, like family routine and rituals?
Well, yeah, because I think my mother and my cousin Saban's mother, were lobster fiends, and as are a lot of people in Maine, but there's like an extra level of lobster fiend. And so our mothers, it was around us all the time.
And you weren't just Maine, you were coastal Maine.
Yeah, we were coastal Maine. We were right on the water, and you had a lot of friends and family in the lobster industry. But no matter what we did as a family, it was always our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, and then us cousins, boys and girls run around at every holiday, whatever the holiday was, the vacation, the backyard barbecue, the pool party. Every time we got together, we were 20 minutes apart. It was just this crazy event that was always had some kind of presence of lobster, be it live lobsters, lobster rolls, lobster mac and cheese.
Ooh, lobster mac and
but
cheese.
It was always our mothers just ripping it out, dipping it in hot butter, probably swigging on a bottle of champagne or, white wine. And that's how we were brought up. We always saw it. It's like one of those things you go, what does this mean? Well, it was always around us. And it sounds kind of cheesy to say, but it was just always there. And you don't always know what you don't know, and you don't really understand not what to be grateful for, but you don't have an appreciation for it until sometimes later in life. You're like, oh my God, we were growing up with the best lobster in our backyard.
Yeah. And like you say, you don't know what you know until you get away from it.
Right.
And honestly, the Northeast, this is because I grew up not that far from you.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great area to grow up, and you don't really realize how good you have it until you get away from like where you grew up.
It's true.
So you're working, you go to Holy Cross, you graduate in 2008. You went for political science? Is that
I did, yeah. I wanted to become a lawyer, so I was doing English and poli-sci, and then I'm like, nope, because I'm not going to be a lawyer. I couldn't do English. It's just like, wait for this interview, see what you think of my English. But it's just one of those things. It wasn't for me. The class wasn't for me, and so I'm like, I guess I won't be a lawyer.
So you got into sales.
Yeah.
So why sales?
Sales, because I think, and my father would say this, ever since I was young, I mean, at the age of probably 10 or 11, I was a janitor at my father's church, his Greek Orthodox church, working every week, inside, outside, mowing, doing the toilets, the trash, vacuuming, cleaning the whole place for 4 or 5 hours, because my dad said to me, if you want those pair of shoes, if you want this thing, that I'd say, Dad, I want those. He goes, you can go earn your own money.
Yeah.
And so I think that motivation or the hunger probably translated pretty well to sales, saying, hey, I'm gonna eat what I kill, or I'm probably gonna go in a full commission job, or I just want the ability to say, hey, I'd like to make more money if my performance allows me to. If I want to work harder and harder and longer, and it can manifest into something that's maybe a little bit more money for me, not to have money, just to be able to have some opportunities.
Right,
be it to live in the North End, or be it to go to a Bruins game, or buy a pair of shoes once a year, something like that. That's just kind of how it wasn't materialistic for me. It was just
autonomy, security.
Yeah, for sure. And so I got into medical device sales, and that was right out of college, and it was for a company called Strike Orthopedics. Great 4-year career. I still remember my owners, the day that they basically told me I'd get the job after a bunch of interviews. They said, most people don't start out of college here. It's usually like, they're 40, 50, whatever, later in their career that they're getting a job like this, because that's kind of how that industry was. I was their first college hire. And so to me, that was kind of the opening and the beginning of saying, okay, well, maybe things are changing here. Maybe I'm going to kind of create a path for myself in this space, and then, whatever's to come from there.
What were you selling exactly?
So I was selling implants for knees and hips, broken ankles, broken hips, broken elbows, broken wrists. So 90% of my days was in an operating room watching a surgeon implant these devices.
I could not
kind
do
of talk
that.
to him.
I would have been passed out.
A lot of people were.
Could not do that. Yeah. So you were making. I know sales, especially in like the wellness, I don't know the right words to use, but like surgical sale, like anything to do with like the world of like medicine is usually pretty good. I'm assuming you were making good money.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the time, again, I didn't really have a comp in terms of outside of some of my other buddies that would, kind of willingly share kind of where they're at and where they were going. So I had like a little idea, or, some of your buddies that are in iBanking, et cetera. I thought that I had a pretty competitive job, and to my point earlier, like it had the ability to grow, not exponentially, but at a pretty good rate compared to maybe some salary jobs that are going to get a 3, 4, or 5% increase every year if they're doing well. So it was really ideal. I was living in the North End. I was with my buddies. I love Boston. It's my favorite city in the world, and had security, to your point. And my folks were 2 hours north. And then I decided to leave.
Yeah. So why did you decide to leave? What was going on? Like, how did this idea for a lobster concept come into your mind?
Yeah. So after college, I hadn't seen my cousin Saban, who grew up in Scarborough, Maine. He'd gone to Hofstra in New York. I had gone to Holy Cross. He was a couple of years older than me. And then he moved to Los Angeles. So we had kind of lost touch for 7 or 8 years. And he had been out in LA, and for whatever reason, I was going to go to LA for the first time in my life. I was going to visit an ex-girlfriend was the intent of the trip originally. But 95% of my time was spent with Saban. So, I went out there, I think it was in February, and, it was freezing back east. It's sunny there. The beach. We did the whole LA vibe thing with myself and my cousin.
It doesn't take long to figure out why it's so overpopulated.
No, not at all. No, I'm like, of course. And he's just rubbing it in. He's like, what are you doing back home? Shoveling snow? I'm like, probably. So, that kind of gets your juices flowing a little bit. And long story short, we went to a dinner on Sunset Boulevard. We went to a sushi joint. And one drink, led to another and just kept going and going. And we are mama's boys at heart. So we started kind of, as we got a little buzz, we started reminiscing about our childhood and about growing up in Maine. And what that was about was really family at the core. It was our parents, our grandparents, and of course us, a group of cousins. And so as we were talking about that, like, man, you remember like the pool parties and Thanksgiving? Well, shit, we had lobster at Christmas time and at Thanksgiving. Like, that was weird. You're like, oh, that was some of the best lobster in the world. And what was with some of the best lobster in the world were laughs and love. And so just kind of all this sense of happiness. Like, boy, that was perfect.
Did you guys a lobster at this meal or something?
I don't even think we did. Saban was probably too drunk to order. No, no, we were just sticking mostly like sushi, shrimp, tuna and shrimp and some crab. I don't think we ordered anything lobster.
That's funny.
That'd be cheating on Maine.
So you just started reminiscing about
yeah, and going down memory lane. And then so, then it was kind of like, hey, how much time our grandparents had left, and it was more about family at that point. But then we kind of said, hey, well, why don't we do something together? That was probably when we had the last martini we didn't need. And
alcohol gets a bad rep. I feel like recently, like, a lot of people are hating on alcohol and suggesting people should drink less. I think it's important that people realize the good of alcohol.
Drink more.
I mean, yes, but also like be responsible, like using and abusing, right? Yeah. And I don't want to get into the whole this. Like, I did this great episode with the author of Drunk, who kind of wrote this like whole like anthropological approach to alcohol over time and its impact on society and civilization and its positive role. What people don't realize is there's so much alcohol today, and it's stronger than ever before. That like it's just like we don't like. But if you're alive today, all you know is an abundant amount of alcohol at your like disposal. But it's so good for reconnecting with people, lowering people's guards, and it also shuts down your frontal lobe, which. Like it doesn't shut it down, but it kind of makes it go offline a little bit, where like you can just like your creativity, it just goes crazy. Some of the best novels and books were written, and the authors don't even remember writing those books, but it helps you tap into this level of creativity because you're not holding back. You're not thinking like, oh, that's not possible. You just start dreaming. It's powerful.
Well, I mean, I think I don't need to say anything after you said that, but I mean, listen, I'm not sitting here going, oh, yeah, drink more. I was joking, but I do think it does allow that opportunity, like you're saying. Like, I mean, just as simple as saying, that next drink that you have and then your guard comes down, you're like, I mean, if you were having this stone sober, would we have been into the idea of starting a food truck?
No, you would have instantly shut it down.
So this is crazy. Would we have been like, yeah, let's fly lobster across the country? They'd be like,
the frontal lobe, executive would have
been
like,
out of here, man. Like,
stupid?
What's the next thing? We'll move on with our day. So I think it does allow an opening there. And that's really what happened, is that we were just loved talking about our family, reminiscing on those times, and wow, this is the best lobster we ever had experienced, and it was right in our backyard. Why don't we bring that here to Los Angeles on these streets where we've been walking the last 4 or 5 days, where we don't see any lobster that is that good of quality that we had, and let's make it at an affordable price.
And this is 2012.
This is 2011.
11, thank you.
Yeah, and the whole affordable price thing is because it's not a high-end seafood steakhouse where you're getting, the white linen cloth and champagne, and it's going to be $200+ for a fillet and a lobster tail, right? We said, let's give this to them.
Take all the frills away.
Yeah, down and dirty like we grew up with in Maine. The little lobster shack, lobster roll made for you. It's, you're not shucking the lobster on yourself on your own, and it's going to be affordable.
Yeah.
Right? And we're going to make it the best because you asked earlier about the restaurant industry. I haven't been part of the restaurant industry, but I went to the restaurants and the bars a lot. And what I did know is that I love the best customer service. I love that rapport, camaraderie, someone that's treating you well. Like we always said, treat our customers like it's our mothers, right? And then the other thing is the food. It's got to be a 10. That's why I'll come back. And it always drove me crazy when I go to some places that were a local watering hole or this is my favorite sandwich or whatever, and then they change their chicken or they change this. They just try to cut into their margin a bit. And the quality went down. I'm like, see ya.
Yeah.
It's just this. It's, again, so simple. So, that's what we did. And that was how the evening went at Katana on Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood. We woke up the next day with a hangover. I was flying back to Boston and kind of said, what about this idea? And for the next 13 months, we worked on it.
So when in 2011 did this conversation happen? What month?
It was in February
2011. So almost 2000. Oh wait, so the very beginning of
2011, yeah.
So you opened your first location in 2012, right?
2012, April 27th, 2012.
So almost a year and a half later.
Right. Yeah.
So about a year and 3 months later, essentially.
Yeah.
So you started this conversation by saying, there was this quote on being prepared, right? Technically, you guys had zero restaurant experience. Like from the outside looking in, it's like you're wholeheartedly unprepared. You had no restaurant experience. Like you have no idea what you're really getting yourself into. You have these secure jobs that are paying you well, that give you security and autonomy, and you're walking away from that. Is what's going through my mind when I hear this. Like, what? How badly did you want to explore this lobster idea to leave all that behind?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you bring up a lot of things.
You're like, yeah, when you say it like that, why did I do
that? Okay, what did I do? Listen, I don't think it was just about lobster. I think it was about the beauty of lobster was that, one, it's an amazing product, and it's something that's so meaningful to us, and it is our roots. It's from where we are from. Then the other side of it is also that aspirational entrepreneurial trip and journey of, like, again, whether it be sports or whatever, it gets your passions flowing, like going to that next level and challenging yourself, and this is not enough, and keep growing and keep going, which I think we've seen over our 11 years now. So you take those two and combine them, an amazing product with some vehicle or way, quite literally a vehicle at the time, to get it to the market. Then it becomes this job that is an entrepreneurial trip that is always about kind of recreating our childhood of Maine and lobster, and there's no better combination for us. So that's kind of how you really fell into it. But to your question about being prepared, you're right. There's no technicality. I had no restaurant experience. My cousin had a little bit. But when I say preparation, knowing that I didn't have that, knowing that I wasn't a chef or that I was never a busboy, I never worked in restaurants, just made me focus more on what I just told you, preparation. So for those 15, 16 months, while we were trying to figure out what this business would look like, be it the distribution, the supply, or the quality, or the team sourcing from Maine, everything from the menu, right? Lobster was the star, but the last thing on our menu was that we added was chowder before we launched. And that's because I went through like 38 chowders trying to figure out what the right kind of consistency and quality and recipe would be for that chowder to speak as much or as well as the lobster does. It's not just lobster, right? We do the same thing with French fries or coleslaw, whatever it may be. Like, everything matters. So that was the preparation on my end. Saban was preparing on the West Coast with the ops, the truck itself, the team, the training. Of course, we were not going to hit everything out of the park. We weren't, we hadn't been in business, right? There was so many voids, to your point. I mean, I called 72 lenders to try and get a financing on a food truck, and they go, "What? What's the name of your business?" I'm like, it's an LLC called Cousins Maine Lobster. They're like, "Do you have a truck?" Nope. You have any history? Nope. Have any sales? Nope. You ever been in the restaurant? Nope.
So basically everything I just said.
Correct. Yeah. but it makes you, but then kind of comes in that fuel, that entrepreneur thing I'm talking about. Cool. You're going to tell me no. I'm going to keep going until someone tells me yes. And I'm just tagging along with that, eventually lobster, right? And so not tagging along. I mean, it's those two. It's the entrepreneurial thing that is the business, and it's the lobster, just the star of the show that's our food. So that's what I mean by preparation. We made sure we knew that we had exposure. We knew that we had voids. We knew that we didn't know so much stuff in this space. Never mind starting a business. That can be totally separate of food, right? So we had to work harder. We had to make sure that we have to give ourselves the best chance to have an opportunity to succeed.
You had a year and like 5 months from February 2011 to 2012
Yep.
in April, about a year and 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
My math might be off about a month or two, but like what were the biggest challenges in that first year and a half almost?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, you don't know. There's a lot. I mean, if you're talking about sourcing, we want to find lobster that is available at higher quantities than what we're used to picking out of a live lobster on our picnic table, right?
Right.
That would meet the quality and spec that we thought we experienced as kids pulling it out, and you realize that it is so much more involved than like just cooking a lobster, right? We don't cook the lobsters on the truck or in the restaurants. We make sure the lobster is cooked the same way for us every time in Maine, but we didn't know what we didn't know.
Okay, so I was curious. You're not shipping live lobster, so
No.
you're shipping
We're shipping the meat.
Okay.
And that alone is just because it's just like a fillet, right? I can give you 3 different fillets. They're both fillets. One could be really chewy, one could be tough, one could be tender. One could be depends on how you cook them, but then there's obviously different grades too. And the same thing for lobsters, and how they go from kind of the ocean floor into lobster meat that's in a bag. Like they can chew and eat and taste completely differerly.
I mean, I wasn't expecting this. Isn't really like a food podcast, but you got me interested because I think lobster. I mean, they're all bugs, man.
Yeah.
Like they're just ocean bugs.
Well,
like,
on the floor they are.
so how does the grade vary? Like
Yeah.
get into that.
That's a good question. It's like any other animal. I mean, you can haul a trap up to the boat. We take our franchisees and ourselves out, and you can have a lobster that's damaged, cracked open. They call them a cull if you have one claw instead of 2. So think about that. If it's any other animal that's before being cooked or processed, if it's damaged, if it's weak, right? Versus a lively, healthy lobster that's coming out, its claws are going like this, it's all intact. Those are 2 differences of where you're starting at right off the ocean floor to how it's going to be cooked and then what it's going to taste like. And one is far different than another. And on top of that, there's hard shell versus soft shells, right? So there are hard shell lobsters that a lot of people love, especially tourists. They go, it's more meat inside. There is. There's more meat filling up that shell. But when that happens, the meat can be a little more robust, okay? Whereas I love, and what we grew up with, was soft shell lobsters. They can crack into after you cook with your own hands. There's less meat, more water content, but the meat is really sweet and juicy and tender. So we try and work on those. And then when you get into bigger volume like we are now, it's really about how everything's being cooked and the cool temperatures and where it's being held in terms of like what as it's cooling as a lobster from being cooked. How quickly it's being picked, the soft shell versus the hard shell, and of course the quality that goes into the cooker in the first place, like I mentioned.
So this is all happening in the first year and a half before opening, figuring out what's the process of it, like how do we procure our lobster? What's that process?
Correct.
Like?
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. I mean, not to the same detail that we've done the last probably 5 or 6 years.
I'm sure as you scale, you got to figure it out.
Yeah, and you learn far more.
Yeah.
But yes, you need to find a supplier that you could trust and. It's no different while I'm from there, and you can kind of knock on doors and know a lot of little connections because Maine is probably like New Hampshire, a small little state. You play the high school name game and you know everyone, right? So there's a lot of connections to be made, but we're also new, right? We're saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. We have a food truck. We're going to start in Los Angeles. Probably half the people were rolling their eyes and be like, okay, kid, let me know.
So when you were planning this, did you think that you were going to be buying lobster from like the store, like and like doing everything like all the
No, I would drive up and down the coast and I would go into like little fish shacks. Be like, can you give me 20 pounds a day? Can I take 30 pounds a day? And that was built off of, and they were going to just fly it overnight, ship it from their store.
Did you have the foresight that it was going to be cooked and processed?
I did that. I had the foresight on that. But I didn't.
Think about the labor you would have.
Yeah.
Cooking lobster is not too difficult. It's
right.
The process is it, but the process of getting all processing it and getting
for sure.
all the meat out that's labor intensive.
Yeah, it's no question. So yeah, I mean, that was a big part is procuring all the products, of course, the lobster, understanding how we get to Los Angeles, and then what happens if it was raining in LA, or what happens if we got really busy on the weekend and we needed more, what are their capacities, who is the right group, because as a very seafood, lobster-centric food truck, the one thing you can never be without is lobster. It's not like we can run out of lobster and sell whoopie pies,
Right. So why Los Angeles and not Boston?
Well, number one, again, just by chance, Saban was living out there for 6 years before I went out. And because he was there and because I went there, you look around and the food truck industry was starting to go like this. Like, I didn't even know what a food truck was, being from Maine and Boston. But out there, they were roaming around. And it had evolved from the days of like the Roach Coach, the white trucks that were just catering vehicles that got their name, much like kind of lobsters, the crustacean of the sea did. They had began to become more elegant, a little bit more high end, where they were selling like tacos or sandwiches.
When was the food truck started? The Crave, was that like early 2000s?
Really, it was probably
90s?
like no, I'd really even say the early 2000s, probably 2006, 2008.
Like 2008 was probably like the heyday,
where
it was like really like the wild west of food trucks, and you could make a good living. The regulations hadn't quite caught up.
Correct. Yeah. But you started to see all these different food, and it became far more gourmet ever since we even entered the game. But that was why we saw the mobility of food. We saw it going to the market. I think that was the thing. It was a lower cost investment. And again, if you want to work and you want to be prepared and you want to hustle and grind and you're an entrepreneur and you want to give yourself a chance to succeed, let me go find the people. And that was kind of the beauty of the truck. Like, if I choose a restaurant and I pick the wrong location on my first investment, maybe the thing never gets off the ground because I don't know about the real estate.
Right.
But with the truck, I can go over there and fail, but the next day I can put it somewhere else, and that's on me. That's literally what I did was book the truck, whether it be the office buildings or the events or the breweries or First Fridays, whatever it may be, caterings. Like, that's just that kind of fit the medical device thing. There was always upside. There was always sales to be done. I just had to find them.
So was it a food truck from the very beginning?
It was, yeah. Okay. We launched that April 27th of 2012.
Even from like the idea of like from the drunken night of like, let's do lobster. Or was it like, let's do a food truck?
We were between a restaurant or a truck. I think your ego might be a little bit more restaurant driven because that's like the sexy, glamorous, restaurant, store your own four walls. But the food truck is what won out because, again, we put our own savings into this. We were just really going to be a passion project and kind of recreate our childhood like I was talking about. And so you can do that for a lower investment with some potential upside and mitigating some risk, if it doesn't work. So that was kind of the idea. Eventually, we said, okay. I remember Saban calling me from LA probably 3-4 months in. He's like, okay, it's going to be a food truck. Yeah. No restaurant. We're moving forward with that.
I think it may, like, and I'm kind of been sitting on this idea. I have a question. I'm going to give you a little teaser. I'm going to ask you this question later. Knowing what you know now, in the world we live in today, if you had to start over, starting today, would you still do a food truck?
Yes.
You would still do a food truck? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to package that.
Okay.
So, I mean, now this back to this question between Boston versus LA. I'm thinking in 2012 there wasn't a fast casual lobster joint even in New England. Yeah. There were shacks all over the place, right? But if there wasn't like a single branded lobster only concept, maybe with the exception of Red Lobster, but they weren't a fast casual. They weren't even doing all lobster. They were doing seafood, right? Yeah. So like. I was curious about why, but I mean, you think about if you go out to LA, there's literally no places that do just lobster. Correct. So like you have a unique selling proposition, and it might be much more expensive because you got to fly it out there, but there's also a lot of money in LA. So you have this target audience of people who probably are implants that miss lobster. So I'm thinking that's probably the better place to go.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we looked at it too. So, there was, to your point, there may not be the QSR specific one in the New England, but there was lobster in New England, right? Where LA, you're like, again, you got to go to the highest end steak or seafood house to find a lobster tail or a lobster roll. And even then, and to this day, I still don't think the quality is necessarily amazing. So we saw like an opportunity there, like certainly a void in the market. And then to your point, it wasn't just that Beverly Hills was there because we originally thought, Beverly Hills, people are going to have disposable income and we can go, because we sold everywhere, and that was a quick learning curve for us. We thought we had to have people with just high-end money around us because we would have a higher cost product to customers than a grilled cheese. However, we found that it worked in every little nook and cranny of LA.
Nice. So in getting open, like, were there any obstacles in your way aside? Like, you couldn't get a bank to invest in you. Yeah. Like that's not like an obstacle. So is that one of the reasons why you started as a food truck too? Because you needed to start small.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There was only a certain amount of money that Saban and I both put in $20,000.
How much
of our own savings
did you think you needed? What was your pro forma? Do you remember?
Well, for the truck,
what was the total cost that you thought you were going to need to start?
For the truck, about 80 to 100,000, and then probably another 20 to 40,000 for capex
yeah.
and operations. So call it 140. The truck ended up being like 85,000. But again, give yourself a little runway for the coming months and training and again, to your point, ops and equipment and capital. So we each put in 20 grand. We financed the rest eventually when we found that the other company would do it. That was a huge obstacle. I mean, hell, most people probably just stop calling for lending, in which case the idea never would have happened in the first place, right? Just like I was saying earlier. But we did. We worked through it. And our first good omen came in that the truck that we bought, it was a used truck, and it was a former Cape Cod chip truck. Oh. So we kind of thought, hey, well, this is back east. So, this has got to be good. A Cape Cod chip truck transformed into Cousins Maine Lobster truck. So that was our very first truck. And the other challenges obviously came in that, this is where not being in the industry clearly, hindered us a little bit. When we went to our very first opening on April 27th, 2012, it was in Artesia Boulevard, kind of like the South Bay of LA. And we showed up about 45 minutes late. We had a line of 60 people because we had put it out on Twitter with 200 followers that were coming. And
so you had 200 followers and you had a line of 60 people?
Yeah.
That's a devoted following.
That's I think you're finding a lot of those people that are East Coasters like, oh my God, these guys are going to sell lobster rolls, right? We had one little thing on Urban Daddy, which was like a little, blog that came out saying we're going to be here. We had 12 people working on a truck. One of them was my ex-girlfriend, by the way. Wow. It comes full circle, right? We didn't have a register.
Was she still your girlfriend then?
No.
Okay.
No. We
must be a nice guy if she decided to stick around.
We didn't have a register. On our first night of service. Forgot that. It's not like we chose to not bring it. We just didn't have one. The 12 people on our truck had never flipped a bun, buttered a bun, the bread that we use for the lobster meat, never trained, hadn't done a thing. So we were doing our training literally as we were rolling in, 45 minutes late with a line of 70 people. Ended up doing about $7,000 or $8,000 in cash that night. We went and got an old school register at a store around the corner.
Did you sell out?
We sold out. And Saban and I just talked to everyone in line the whole night. We gave away free whoopie pies, obviously, to kind of keep them calm.
Very New England.
Yeah, and we just talked to people because that's kind of what we would have thought with the hospitality back home. Like that's what people want to hear. Like, tell me about who you guys are, but where you're from, where's this product, why is it going to be exceptional, and you just kind of have that banter back and forth. A little bit of education on the product, of course. Left with 5-star reviews and. Cash we didn't know what to do with because we didn't even have a bank account.
What kind of questions were you asking? Were you looking for feedback, data? What was the goal of asking all these questions?
Well, it was going both ways. We were asking questions to them, where you're from? How'd you end up in LA? Oh, you're East Coast? You know how many East Coast connections there are? Or every story someone would have about, I went to Maine as a kid. I went there, to camp. Or I brought my grandfather there. Or my, family member who's dying, their last wish was to have lobster. I mean, there's always some sort of connectivity to Maine and lobster.
High experience thing to do. It's not like you're it's when you go to eat lobster, it's for the first time, we grew up with it, right? But even growing up with it, it's like a special thing.
For sure.
You put the newspaper on the table. That's a big event. It's an experience. And if you're older and you experience it for the first time, it's definitely one of those things you're never going to forget.
Correct.
There's an emotional connection with the experience of eating lobster.
There's no question. Yeah. And so a lot of those emotional connections would come out in conversation. And so now you're talking, and then all of a sudden, 10 minutes passes, they get a roll, they had a good conversation, so did we. We say, hey, listen, let me know what you think. And please, let us know online or whatever. And so then our star rating would start pretty solid. Our Yelp reviews would be pretty great about us, obviously the food, and just caring about the business. These two cousins that are from Maine starting a business.
Did you know how smart you were to focus on doing one thing really well? Or was that just an accident?
I think that I think we went in with that focus because even then we kind of deviated a little bit, still lobster centric, but over the years, lobster tacos, lobster, although started in day one, but lobster tots, lobster grilled cheese, lobster quesadilla, it's still all lobster, but some things
different vehicles
and we've added fish and clams at certain places, but in general, it stays tight. And the reason for that is kind of what I was saying earlier to you is customer service and a 10 of a product, no matter what it is. Nachos, burgers, steak, I don't care. Usually when you go to a place and you open the menu and there's 500 things on it, you're like, oh boy, they're not going to do one thing well.
Yeah.
And even if there's, it creates more room for error. And so we just said, if we want to keep it simple, the truck is tiny as is, you got 2 or 3 people in there current day. So let's make it doable. Let's make it something that ticket times can, quite literally tick, tick, tick out the window real quickly. And let's not slow it down. And let's give people that are looking for lobster the best lobster that we haven't changed in 12 years now.
On that note, let's take a quick break to thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back to talk about the business model, what the first couple of days were like, the challenges, how you overcame those, and how you grew and evolved as a restaurateur.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now, Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We're back. So paint the picture of what your menu was back in 2012.
Yeah, so we opened with a Maine roll and a Connecticut roll. Maine roll is chilled lobster meat, a little bit of mayonnaise inside the bun, buttery toasted bun from New England, well, from Maine. And then the Connecticut version is that same lobster meat warmed in butter, and then a little lemon butter on top in a New England style toasted bun as well.
Got it. And those were the only two.
Those are the only two rolls.
Got it.
So we did lobster tacos, kind of because we were opening in California, LA, kind of hit that. Then we had a chowder, a bisque, and believe it or not, a lobster martini we opened with, which was
Were you allowed to sell alcohol?
No, it wasn't alcohol. It was just a plastic martini glass with lobster meat, wedge of lettuce, lemon, some olives.
So for the carb avoidant people.
Bingo.
So
yeah.
5 items I counted just then.
Yeah, did I say chowder and bisque?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
two soups.
Yeah, tacos.
So 2 versions of the lobster roll,
Yeah.
the tacos, and then
chowder, bisque, and lobster martini. So
6.
Yeah.
So, but really, it's all the same stuff, just going out slightly tweaked.
Correct.
So, I don't know if you did this intentionally or if it was by accident, but there's almost a level of genius associated with that, which is makes me not wonder why Shark Tank was reaching out to you, right? Because like it's such a simple concept. A lot of your labor is being done before it ever gets to you. So you're literally just taking it. You're like the last few steps. You're just finishing it and handing it to somebody.
Right.
So labor low, throughput high. There's so many reasons. I mean, it's a high quality item that is desirable. Like what am I missing? Keep going as to why this is a good concept.
No, I mean I think you're right. It's simplicity. It's focusing on quality. Like we've never deviated on the quality, which I think no matter what you're serving, you can do, right? And you tend to do if you have success, in my opinion. You deviate from what got you there, and I never understood it. So we always kept our lobster standard, where it was from day one. It's a small truck. It gets to go to the market. You go find people, you're going to do sales. To your point, again, we're not serving burgers or tacos where in LA you can get those on every street corner. So something different. It was unique. It was a delicacy. It oftentimes led to emotional connections for people, young and old. And we could move volume real quickly. So when there are people on our line, to your point, lobster meat comes, from our partners in Maine, ready to go. So whether it's going in a bun for a Maine roll or a Connecticut roll or in tacos or in a little bisque or a lobster quesadilla now or whatever it may be, we can move tickets and we can do sales, but we're not taking away from the customer experience or the quality of the food that they're having. Rather, it's quite the opposite. You can come get an amazing lobster meal, whatever it is that suits your fancy, and you can walk out of there for far less than, whether it's our restaurants now or our food trucks, far less than you would at a high-end restaurant, and what I believe is better quality every time.
Yeah. So what was, you said the first time you were open, the first day you were open, you did 7,000-8,000 in that ballpark?
It's just about $8,000, yeah.
$8,000. I'm assuming you fine-tuned the process, right? Like
nope, it's still the same today.
Well, like my point is, how long did it take you to go from one location to 2 locations, or one truck to 2 trucks?
Yeah, that was pretty quick actually. I don't know, we did it within probably 10 months.
10 months.
But yeah, we fine-tuned the cash sitting on the apartment floor pretty quickly.
Right.
Because my dad was like, hey, what's going on? My dad was a CFO. He's like, might as well get going here on this aspect.
What I'm curious, if you did 8,000 the first day, no systems, no processes, no cash register, like how good did you get that single unit economics going before you went to 2?
Yeah.
Like what was like how much volume?
We mastered that pretty quickly because you realize it obviously you had to, right? And as I said, with the preparation and all the things, like that's where we had some deficiencies, right? Whether it be just handling cash and credit and payouts and gratuity and your finances in general, realized that we were not those guys. So we ended up
Good thing you're cash heavy, right?
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of forgiveness. Right?
Well, yeah, and you got to be careful of that, right?
Don't spend that.
Yeah, it's a really it's a slippery slope.
Did you get in trouble?
What's that?
With like cash flow and not maybe putting enough aside for, say, taxes?
No, not that. No. What I mean is, what I was really referring to is that, like, in the food truck world, you can have things going out the back door because everyone's friendly with the other food trucks, right? So we could be trading 10 lobster rolls one night for 10 ice cream cones.
Yeah,
like,
not the same.
That doesn't work out, right? But you're new on the scene. You're like, oh, this is good, and it's going to come back to you with sales. Like, bad idea. So we stopped that pretty quickly without trying to look like the bad guy. But no, you just need to be very cognizant of everything because, to your point, you're building a balance sheet. You got to have cash. You got to have for the rainy days, quite literally, or the winter when the season slows down, or for things you want to do next, like get that next truck.
Right. So what was your best single unit operation like number that you can remember?
In terms of sales?
Yeah.
Our best operation, my first probably 2 or 3 years booking a truck, was probably like $110,000 in a month of sales.
In a month. Yeah. And what about one day? Do you have like an idea?
Yeah, for us, we had probably a $32,000 or $33,000 day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you like 5x it.
Almost. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, how much friggin' lobster can you fit on a truck?
Well, it's surprising you can fit a lot because it's it's the bags that it comes to us from. It comes from Maine to us. It's that's actually not our biggest concern. The biggest concern is the bread. Those boxes and loaves or the rolls take up a lot of space.
I was gonna say that's probably the bottleneck. I'm thinking about what's gonna slow down this process of the lobster going from the refrigerator to the hand of the guest, and it's buttering and toasting the bread. That was probably your
and the storage space for the bread, right?
Yeah.
But also, to your point, if you're hustling these really busy days because people are in line and you have a 12-hour service and you're 7 hours in, you're like, oh man, we're gonna need more meat. All of our locations now throughout the country, 12 years later, have these, satellite commissaries nearby that just get deliveries, right? So like you'll restock lobster or mayo or butter or bread, whatever is needed, but they can hold. We've really kind of developed the trucks so much. Like, one thing we're very proud about is that
custom now.
It's
a lobster slinging machine.
Bells and whistles, and it's a lobster slinging machine, and it's built for all these things that you're talking about that I can't remember from 11 years ago. But there's some from 5, 6, or 2 or 3 years ago. Like, oh, we need more space here, or we need to do this little.
Now you can customize it to make it do what you were designed to do. Yeah. Whereas before you were kind of just working with what you had.
Yeah.
But that's how everybody should start. And I love that you just started, because I think sometimes people analysis by paralysis. They want to get it exactly right, and whatever you think it's going to be. You put so much time into fine-tuning what you think is going to happen, it almost never goes according to plan.
Well, some of the best stories when we were, especially in LA, those first few years after Shark Tank, like, we'd be at the truck and people would come up like, oh my God, you're Jim or Sabin, and I saw you on Shark Tank, and this is you're here. Like, you did it. We're like, yeah, and you start talking to these people, and what you really oftentimes hear is like, oh, I had this idea, and I was going to do it too. Not a lobster truck, whatever. It could be selling pencils. I have no idea. They were going to make something and build something and start something. And the biggest difference, and I would say, well, why haven't you done it? Or you haven't done it, right? Like, you still can, but you got to take a leap. That's like the biggest thing. Is like, some people talk about it, and that's okay. But like, if you really want to see if it works, take the leap and figure it out.
I meant to ask you earlier. How long did you guys keep your full-time jobs?
Kept mine for like 4.5 months.
After opening?
Yeah. So we opened April 27th, 2012, and by October, I had moved out to LA. And I think I quit my job in September.
So were you just kind of like a capital partner / like how were you involved?
So really, I was doing everything like kind of main end, be it
so
ordering, logistics, shipping, all those headaches, trucking, product issues with product, or whatever it may be. And when I say issues with product, I mean like, it didn't get there,
Yeah.
And then going to Maine probably twice a week, checking in on
How many
stuff.
people were on your team in the first year? Was it just 4 of you?
Myself and Sabin.
Ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, no, she was only there for a couple of weeks.
She was just helping to get started.
No, we had like a manager, and again, loosely used, right? We had a manager because we weren't going to be on the truck. Sabin was going to run or work his real estate business and kind of check in on the ops and the training and kind of talk about Maine and things that we wanted our staff talking about. So it was a manager and a couple people working on the truck.
Doing $130 a day. 130,000
on a month.
In a month.
Yep.
But still, 32,000 was your best day. That's what you said.
32,000 best day. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, those are great margins, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the sales always got everyone really excited in a good and a bad way. It's good for Shark Tank and Barbara. It shows a path to having strong sales. but our staff would be like, "Oh my gosh, did 32,000? You must be millionaires."
Yeah, but I was going
But
to say,
they
what are your
don't-
prime costs?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They don't realize that
You're shipping
the
lobster
cost
across
of
the
it,
country.
and never mind the shipping, but just lobster in general. Go compare it to anything. We used to do exercises with them eventually when we saw that, kind of learned that this was in their head. We'd be like, go look at your fish shop or your butcher and see what it costs for, tenderloin fillet.
Were you doing
or,
open book management?
or what?
Were you doing open book management?
we did some exercises years in just to give them perspective, because this isn't as glamorous as it looked. Yes, we do high sales dollars, but remove, to your point, prime cost and cost of goods for us that is unlike others, and our payroll might be a little bit better than some. But then there's the other pieces of just the trucks and the fixes and the small biz, and there isn't all that much hanging out at the end of the day when you're starting a business, especially for two guys who have quit their jobs. So it wasn't that glamorous. And then you could go further and say, well, these staff members could read what the price of live lobster was a pound in Maine, but the live lobster price is so wildly far off from a processed price of lobster, right? So they even got more
Can you
skewed.
give me an
Well,
idea?
live lobster is like if you go buy a live lobster on the dock for $8 back in 2012,
Yeah.
the processed meat price could have been high 20s or low 30s.
Right.
Because that's one lobster that could maybe get you a quarter pound of meat out of it. So it's not even a pound. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
not even a pound of meat yet. It's far from it. And that doesn't include all the things that you said with the cooking and the cooling and the picking and the labor and everything that these plants are doing to get you a finished
And I'm assuming
product.
you're flying these out. You're shipping these things out. Like, what's that? Like, So what's it after it's processed? Right,
Yeah.
$20.
Yeah.
How much? How much lobster are you flying out on a daily basis?
Well, back then I couldn't even tell you. I'd have to go look at invoices, which is actually a fun little thing. But we probably fly I don't know.
Hundreds of pounds of lobster a week.
Oh, a week, yeah, for sure, yeah.
So
yeah,
would you do it like once a week, twice a week, three
No,
times?
we were shipping them every day except
Wow.
for the weekend. Yeah, we would do that, and so we'd even be sending some frozen items like
Too bad
our
I can't get
soups overnight, which was crazy.
I was gonna say, too bad you can't get points for all the
Yeah.
the freaking
No kidding.
travelers.
Yeah,
from the
if we
lobster
could go
you're
back.
flying. So where are you today? Help paint the picture of where you started, and then
Sure.
just real quick, without getting into like a bunch of details of where you are today,
Mhm.
but like how many units, how many
Yep.
cities?
Started with one food truck, April 27th, 2012, and current day we have 62 food trucks and 8 restaurants in 40 cities throughout the country. So
Okay.
70 units in 40 cities throughout the country.
So in 6 years, you went from one food truck to 32 food trucks in 15 cities and 8 locations.
Mm-hmm.
So you've since 2018 have almost tripled in size. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yep.
So 32 food trucks today. You're at how many?
We have 62 food trucks today.
So doubled the amount of food
Yep.
trucks, and you maintained the amount of brick and mortars.
Yeah, we started those later. Then COVID came, and it wasn't, it's not our bread and butter like the food trucks were. Like we've just perfected the brick and mortars. It started late, so they haven't grown with the same velocity. But also, we started as a food truck business, and that's been really appealing to a lot of people. And we started, franchising in 2015, which is the real growth of the business. And why you can really kind of get that hockey stick curve of, like you're saying, because franchisees do well, just like we did with one truck. They want the second truck. They want the third truck. They want the fourth truck. They want the restaurant. It's really a quick turn to produce another truck and get on the road.
So you were in 15 cities in 2018, and now you're in how many? 40? 40. So that's where you more than doubled the amount of cities you're in. So that kind of paints the picture of the level of scale you've had in 10 years. What is it? 2012 to 2000, a little over 11 years. Congratulations. On
Thank you.
11 years. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I guess from now on, going forward, like what were the transformative moments? Like my mission statement is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. And I really like to look at like the transformation of the individuals and their organizations over time. So like along that vein, like what was like the next big thing for you? If you guys opened in April of 2012, what was the next big boom for you? Like what was the next, like if this is first gear, what was second gear?
Yeah, well, so once we went all in, we knew you had to make it work, right? We were two relatively grown men, and we needed to obviously make money, and it was a passion for us. Turn passion project into like our careers. So we had to go from that one corporate truck, and we went to the second, the third, and the fourth within 2 years. Generate more revenue, hopefully have a little bit more bottom line. And it was Barbara from Shark Tank, our partner, who said, you guys should franchise this. It's scalable. You can put it in all kinds of different cities. We didn't even know what franchising meant. But again, we prepared as best as we possibly could for about a year, maybe probably 12 or 14 months, before we launched the franchise. And with that, we had about 2,000 requests. And
you're fine. We're drinking some of the liqueurs over
yeah,
here. So
I know.
We're doing our best.
Wish it was a beer. We had 2,000 requests, and we only sold 10 of those to franchisees. So we franchised 10 units. That was in 2015. And so that, when
10
you say
franchisees, 2015.
Right, exactly. And
where were you before Barbara came on?
One truck. Three months of business.
And I know there's a little bit of a story that like they reached out. Usually people reach out to Shark Tank and they're pitching their concept. They're trying to get investment, but this wasn't the case for you.
No, yeah. There was actually that first night that I told you we did the cash sales with no register. We got contacted that night when we went home. We had an email and a phone call from Shark Tank, their casting, saying, I think you guys would be great for the show.
Did they ever tell you why they reached out to you, what it was?
Yeah, because one of the casting directors was in our line. And
it's from New England?
It's actually, surprisingly, yes, from New England. Had our food, probably hadn't had anything like that out in L.A. Said, food truck's cool, different, never been on the show. You guys seem great. That's at least what they said. And would you consider coming on the show or going through the process, right? So we got, there's 30 or 40 groups they reach out to, but we avoided all the open casting stuff. We said no to the show twice.
Why?
Because we were a month and a half into business. It was our infancy. We didn't want to tell 9 million people what we were doing because we didn't know what we were doing, but also we kind of wanted to hide it a little bit. Looking back on it, not sure why.
Where you're like, we're so successful, we don't need no sharks.
We don't want anyone to take our yeah. We don't need these billionaires to come and take our idea. But then eventually, executive producer called us and said, if you guys don't do this, you'll be making the biggest mistake of your life.
How did he convince you that was true?
Well, I think it was kind of, it's a great question. I think it was really that, you didn't feel like you were talking to someone from a reality show that was just trying to use you, like maybe some other reality shows that we all know. It was really more like
horror stories, man.
Oh yeah, no, us too. Our contract was very one-sided,
yeah.
Right? And you didn't want to be like the stories of The Bachelor, right, where they're like recording you here and showing you this and framing you in this light because we're two dudes from Maine that wanted to be shown as we are.
Post-production.
Yeah,
totally
exactly.
twist the narrative.
Yeah. So, but I do think, and I still believe about the show, knowing more and more about it behind the scenes today, 15 years later, like it is a show that can provide opportunity. Like, and it's also educational. Like there's literally little kids that watch it and adults, and
it's a good show.
Yeah, it's entertaining and it can inspire and it can provide education and opportunity. And I think that's kind of how we looked at it. It was a platform for us to share our story that we otherwise would not have had.
There is a point, if you have a concept that's successful, that if you want to scale it, like you constantly have to have this mentality of, I got to treat my little business like a big business. But like there's the initial operating cost to get started, but then there's the additional cost from going from being a small business to a business that's about to scale. Yeah. It's you need to build the house before you move into it.
For sure.
And the house is friggin' expensive. So if you can go find those people who have the experience doing it, and they can put you on a fast track, and they can get you the resources you need to do it right the first time. I mean, the other thing is you're first to market, right? So like somebody is going to see the success you're having, and all they got to do is, like, you didn't have a hard concept to copy,
right?
Not to beat up your concept, beautiful, but
thanks for nothing.
It's simple, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a simple, but which is what makes it so beautiful, is that it's scalable. Like Barbara said, it has legs. And she was absolutely right, because it's not a lot of moving parts. It can move easily. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you're right. We knew that it obviously, as with most ideas, it could be ripped off, and we've seen it in many different ways throughout the country in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, be it from the website, our colors, our fonts, our photos, our stories.
It's the ultimate compliment.
Yeah, it is the ultimate compliment. And you know what though? It's also the ultimate form of flattery, right? Like in the sense of, go ahead. And I say that for anyone. Like I truly like, but at least try and do it better or something. Like it's amazing how many people get in their own way, be it ego or service or customer reaction.
So like just hanging some pictures next door.
No, I just mean like it's just because you serve lobster rolls doesn't mean you do everything. Like it's right, and just because we serve, like we've always said, like we believe that we have a movement, and it's something that's meaningful, and we care about our franchisees, and it's family first, and we care about our customers, and we expect that service to be there on top of the food. Some places just say, give me your money. Here's a lobster roll. Get out of here. Talk to you later, right? Or whatever it is, a cheeseburger. That's not how we're built, and I think that allows for people to come back and be on board and kind of support our business.
So 2 months in, you're on Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
Had the show changed, or had the business, the food truck changed or evolved in that 2 month period?
No, we'd literally done about 85 to 100 grand each month, and we went in targeting Barbara. Shot her for a little
Why
more than
Barbara?
an hour because we had done our research on her too. Again, preparation. Like you got to do something, right?
Yeah.
Some sort of work. And we found out that she had worked with a lot of food groups. We actually contacted some of those food groups, saw how she kind of was as a mentor, as a business partner. She seemed like we're mama's boys. Like I told you, she seemed relatively motherly. What the hell does that mean when you're watching TV? But kind of get like, I feel like this isn't a shtick for her. It's like is who she is, which it is. 15 years later, we know it. And we just kind of thought that she was also maybe the most primed to help us out with where she was in her career.
Up against? I didn't catch that episode.
It's all good. She was with Robert, Damon, Mr. Wonderful, and Cuban.
Oh, so like the all-star
The
cast.
crew, yeah. So Hershevek gave us an offer asking for more equity, but giving us more money. I think Damon and Mr. Wonderful told us they'd put us in a body bag, and then we were greedy. Although they're some of the closest guys to us now and most helpful. So it was a good experience.
So before going into that experience, what deal did you have in mind? Did you have a bottom line you were looking for?
Well, we went in saying 15% for 5% for 55,000. We ended up at 15% for 55,000, which, as I say, is like just absolute highway robbery of Shark Tank history to Barbara now. In terms of
I'm thinking about that. I'm like, I would have gotten at least $1 million for 15%.
Well, it's changed though. Like that was season 4.
Right.
What you look at from season 8, 9, 10, or maybe even 9, 10, 11 and beyond, like the amount of money coming out of the Sharks' pockets, and the equity is going up too, right? Yeah. Like it's $200, $300, $400, $500,000 deals for equity. It's millions at times, right? So the way, season 4, when we're asking for 55 grand, because we didn't really know another truck we're going to need it for, right? And we wanted to keep equity low, but of course they want, obviously more.
Right. So that's 15% of profit.
15% of, yes, correct, of profit.
Okay, cool. So when you did agree to go with Barbara, and that deal was 15% for 55,000, but it's not just the money, right? You're also getting the expertise of that shark, and she's scaled food truck. So like, I'm guessing that like if this is the hero's journey, she's like your Gandalf, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you hit it right. It's actually not the money at all.
Yeah.
It's not like we needed 500 grand or $1 million to go make something happen that we couldn't tap into some other way. Like I could have got 55 grand from someone, like that's what people say. Well, why didn't you just get it from your uncle or your grandparent? Like they just name people in your family, and you probably could have scrounged it up, but we didn't need the money, or it wasn't about the money. What those people in my family couldn't do was put you in front of 9 million people or get you on certain, PR of national shows, local shows, share your story that you're franchising and help you kind of marketing your business throughout the country. And, that's one of her major kind of sweet spots and expertise that is paid for itself over and over. And she's been super helpful with us in that way. And it's the gift truly that like keeps on giving. The Shark Tank platform and everything that's come from that and her own platform. We would need millions of dollars to go and buy advertising on a major network or major cable network and go, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're about, and we're franchising. And then you get such a small percent of the people that inquire that are actually not tire kickers, but that are meaningful, viable candidates that could turn into franchisees. So it's like a slow grow, really hard process. So I strongly believe without Shark Tank and without Barbara, it would have been a hard story to pitch to get our franchise to where it is now. We probably would end up with corporate trucks the whole time.
Right. So in the first 6 years, you went from that 1 unit to 32 units in 15 cities with 8 brick and mortars and 1 unit in Taiwan and franchising. How did you go? Like take me kind of through the evolution. Like when Barbara first came on scene, like what was the first changes she started to make? Like what did she say? Like you're missing these opportunities.
I think a big part of it was what is front facing the customer. What's the look, the name, the signage, the verbiage on the truck. That because there's so little time to interact. I mean, you're not walking into a restaurant, right? So there's less interaction at the window. So just everything from the visuals, the feel, the marketing, the story and message, and the word of Maine and our product and where we're from, to let customers know what we're about. That was a big focus. She did the same on...
So distilling the message, the brand, the who are we, the why we are doing this.
Correct. I think to really kind of build, consumer buy-in and support, because even just now, like today, we say the same thing. Like the what you should have eaten in 2012 from us should taste the same exact as the product you get in any one of our cities today in 2023. And that continuity and consistency is important. That's kind of what she kind of started with, the foundation of that one truck at the time. And then I think she did a lot with our online e-commerce business in that same front. But then really it was about like, okay, well, how are we going to grow this? And that really came down to the franchising aspect.
Okay. So, I mean, just reflecting back at the evolution, like what were the biggest challenges and hurdles you got over, and how did those impact who you are and how you kind of are today, or how you got to where you are today?
Well, one of the biggest challenges, I suppose, within the business was, when we grew to 4 corporate trucks, we were both living in LA. We could touch and feel the trucks and the staff every day, right?
Yeah.
The food, the quality, the people, could oversee it. You could feel, not that we were controlling by any means, we were actually quite the opposite. We wanted to create the autonomy we loved at our previous jobs for our own staff. We wanted to show you, hey, listen, we're not going to micromanage, but you could see it. It's your operation. It's your baby. Once we started franchising, when we flew to that first city where you go for the grand opening for 3 days and we have our team train, and then you get back on the plane and you're leaving the Cousins Maine Lobster truck in Phoenix or in Dallas or wherever, like that was a major challenge. You go, oh my gosh, what now? Right.
Like, I mean, when you're spread out now, like that's a whole different way of leadership and management, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So when you were, how long did it take you to go from 1 unit to 4 units?
We did that within about 2 years, 2012 to 2014.
Okay. Where was this $55,000 being spent?
We actually didn't touch it for the first year and a half. We did it. We ended up using it for, I think, the 3rd truck once we started tapping into it. So again, it really wasn't about the money at the time. It was more about the opportunity with Barbara.
Got it. So how did she help the most from going from 1 to 4 beyond just the branding? Like, what was the biggest impact she had early on beyond the branding and distilling?
It was really like I think her claim to fame is the franchise. It is
helping you get ready for franchise.
Yeah, and there's so many missteps you can take in franchising, right? If you don't do the FDD or the franchise agreements correctly, if you don't get the right
she had all the templates already.
Correct.
She
had the legal teams or the you can kind of start with a boilerplate because it doesn't fit every business, but then to really kind of get granular with those things to make sure they do fit our business, to make sure that you're ultimately protected. You have something really nice to present. And so you're not, a laughing stock if someone goes, okay, cool, I want to join your franchise. I got 20 Dunkin' Donuts. Tell me about yours. We're like, you gotta be ready. And I think that's where she could elevate us with that. And for anything we didn't know or she didn't know, she knew someone.
Right.
And that was connection on a phone call. Yeah. And that's where we always say, kind of my point about preparation, we may not know it. Most of the time we didn't know it. We'd ask a million questions, but it's nice to be able to ask those questions to people that have been there, done that, or are really experienced in their aspect, be it literally insurances for us, or HR, or accounting, or growth, or
what you're
sales.
saying right now is literally why I started Restaurant Stoppable Network, is because I don't consider myself to be the expert in all these things, but I know somebody who knows way more than I do, so we can go to those people and learn collectively.
Right.
So it's the power of a network is so powerful. It's underestimated. But so you said that if she didn't come along, you would have been corporate only. You would have just been a corporate operation.
Yeah, I think so.
So how did she convince you that franchising was the way to go? Why were you so adverse to franchising?
It's not that I was adverse to it. I love the idea of it. I just know now how hard it is to get a litany of a huge volume of franchise inquiries and requests or recruits that you are then going to say that filters down to this 1 or 2% that will actually close to be a franchise. So the amount of money you need to say, hey, world, this is your country. This is my business. This is who we are. We're young and we're in our infancy, but we're franchising now. And please, come look at our business. And would you like to, be considered as a franchisee for this too? Like, that message alone is so hard to get out to people. And it's not like we had 500 units roaming the country, right? We had 4, and they were all in LA. So it's not like you'd see our trucks unless you traveled to LA. So the ability to basically get our face, our brand, our product, and our story on Today's Show, Good Morning America, financial shows, in New York, in LA, the network, the entrepreneur magazines, everything that is, we're grateful for now, but we've got a wall of things that are really, make us proud to be a part of. And they start spreading, it goes to TMZ, it goes to CNBC. It kind of fits like all avenues. And so that just creates more eyes on your brand. Like we always say, like we go on the, have been on the Today Show a decent amount of times. I don't think that's driving our sales at each truck. I don't think it's doing that at all. I think it's creating a little bit more awareness and recognizability for our brand, where there might be someone at home that then a week later goes, oh yeah, I heard of that business on the Today Show with Hoda and, Jenna. Like that's important. And Barbara gave us, she started that whole kind of trickle in 2012 and 13, and we've kind of tried to stay ahead of the curve. More people that know about us, the more opportunity to maybe award franchises.
Yeah, you started this awesome terror, by the way, with saying you have no idea how much money it's going to cost you to franchise, right? So, like, how much money does it actually cost if you're going to do it right? Like, how much do you need to budget for? Like, give us an idea.
So just to be ready to sell an award, meaning with a franchise disclosure document or franchise agreement, all the kind of buttoned up pieces you would need in your team, your infrastructure, the legalities of being able to sell. I mean, I would think today is probably $150,000, $200,000 just to get set up so that you can sell.
Yeah.
Right. That's a pure investment. Like, oh my God, I hope we sell something.
Where's the majority of that $150,000 going?
Well, to truly like to legal teams that will sit there and put together your franchise disclosure documents, your franchise agreements. For us, we also invested in a couple of people internally that would, if we had some franchisees come on that would be able to support that. We always wanted to be an asset to our franchisees, and at the time we were a team of 3: myself, Saban, and our best buddy Sean Higgins, who moved out from New York and is the president of the business 11 years later. So yeah, I mean, mostly in that space, but then, the real, if I looked at the last 10 years, I wouldn't even know the number, but I would imagine if we didn't have Shark Tank and all the things that came after to promote the business or show our story, I mean, I would say probably millions of dollars to advertise. And then, it's kind of like we were talking about earlier, what's advertising mean now? Today, are people going to just fast forward through the commercial anyways?
Right.
Like, are you even going to see it? Are you spending all your money online, or is it actually going on TV? And like, all those millions of dollars just to let people know who you are, and maybe they'll go to your website and fill out an inquiry, and maybe they'll be good, but more often than not, the percentages say they won't be there, at the end.
Yeah. So of all the food trucks that you are a part of the Cousins today, how many are run by, how many different franchise partners do you have?
Yeah, we have about 18 franchisees, but of those 62 trucks, 56 of them are franchised.
56 out of 62?
Correct.
Okay, so you guys own...
We own 6 corporately.
6 corporately? Mm-hmm. Got it. One thing I am curious about, because that's where we are today, how did you know what markets to go into? Like, how were you prioritizing where to take your food trucks?
And that's why when you asked earlier if I had something against franchising, I love the idea of franchising. The reason being is because if you're a franchisee, then you're invested into it. You've got skin in the game. Your blood, sweat, and tears goes into your business. You are an entrepreneur just like we are. It might say Cousins Maine Lobster. It's a family business. And somebody could go, oh, it's a national business. No, it's not. It's national in the name. But if you live in Raleigh, like our franchisees, Deb and Greg do, they're from there. They've lived there for 25 years. They're the backbone of that business with their two food trucks and their restaurant there. And the locals know them, and that's how it evolves, and all that kind of manifests to the support and the sales of the business. So when things get hard, those franchisees' backs are against the wall, just like Jim and Saban's were in 2012 when we quit our job. When COVID hit, same thing. Who do I want going through supporting this business and making sure it works in every city? I want our franchisees, because they're the ones that are living in their market. This is their business. It is their investment. We are there with them every sense of the way. We are supporting. Of course. Yeah. Like, they're part of the community. And our little Cousins Maine Lobster community too. Like, we'll work and network any one of our franchisees, but when they put it back, like, it's something really special happens. Yeah. And what that means is that something special is that we got through COVID, like, really strongly, and when there is growth to be had, and when people want to succeed and scale and do more, It's because they can see it in their bottom lines. They can see opportunity. They can see themselves creating jobs for their very first manager of one truck, but now they got 8 trucks and he's a regional manager, he or she. Or they have, more upside to their business to be telling their staff how they can grow. And that is really, really special. But I think at the end of the day, a franchisee is like, it's their business. They're in the game and they're gonna be there making, fighting in the trenches with us to make sure that it always has successes, and when hard times come, that they work through those. Whereas if I was paying a manager to be a corporate, a corporate manager across the country for me, and I hope that they wake up not hungover, right? Or that they're motivated that day to go out, like you say, unstoppable. You feeling unstoppable today? I don't know how much I'm going to trust them on paying a salary with maybe no upside in their mind.
Skin in the game.
Yeah.
If they show up hungover and they're doing a shitty job, and the customers they serve that day don't come back, they're still going to get their paycheck.
Correct.
Right.
But so having the franchisees it's special.
So I will say this: I have grown and evolved a lot over my almost 10 years of recording this. I used to be very against big corporation franchise. The reason for that is because I felt like it stifled local commerce, local community, local creativity, and I like the idea of spreading the money out. Not having these McDonald's of the world come in and pull the money locally and send it to wherever the CEO of that company is. I will say something about, I think that the more I've learned about the business of restaurants and business in general, like, you need to create opportunity for people and for them to stick around for you. And unless you're growing, there's not going to be any opportunity. Yeah. So, I do love this idea of giving equity to your team. And like letting people buy in, and that's how you find your investors. You provide opportunities to the people that you hired to become an investor by buying 1%, right? And giving equity to your people, and then that's how you attract onto yourself this talent, by letting them literally treat it like they own it, because they do. Then over time they can buy more points as they're increasing their own cash flow. Yeah. Franchising is not too much different. It's just another way to scale. It's another legal structure to let people invest and buy in, and then you give opportunity to them through this thing that you've created. They might just be a little more ahead of, say a server who wants to become the front of house general manager who has a 1% of this one location.
Right. And, yes, I guess I'd say to your point earlier, I would probably have agreed with you about the idea of franchising before. I didn't even know what franchising was. I just knew that all McDonald's were the same, or they're supposed to be, right?
Right.
But I think we're a little different in the sense of, one, our product line. But 2, I just told you we have 17 franchisees, not thousands. We have 60 units, not 6,000, right? So I think that what you might have been experiencing, and myself included, when you go to some of these massive franchises or a franchisor that has a lot of franchisees, if you feel like something's lost along the way, if it's just a transaction or maybe like a business model, I think that's where we're a little bit different, because we are still just innately so small.
Right.
As a business acumen, as kind of our ethos, and then just by the nature of our product and the way we've grown, is it like we're not ever going to be 4,000 units.
Right.
We're going to be a smaller franchise where all of our franchisees know each other and actually genuinely love getting together in our annual retreats and talking to each other and being part of this thing that, oh, you're doing that? I'm going to do this too. Yes. And we're going to be better in all these different regions of the country, right? And there's competition, but it's good and it's healthy. And I think that then on the level of, I walk in and I might be a national brand, but I should be having the same lobster roll. Oh, and by the way, the franchisee who is from Dallas, Texas, or from Pittsburgh, or from Freehold, New Jersey, or our restaurant on Asbury Park Boardwalk, like, they're from there and they're talking to the owners.
Right.
And they go, oh, are you on Shark Tank? No, Jim and Sabemore. Okay, cool. Let's laugh and have a lobster roll, right? Like, that's, but they're talking about it just like they are the owners of those units.
For the record, I still don't want to see a bunch of like Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's out there in the world, but I do think that I do want to see more franchises and more corporations, but operating from like the 20 to 100 location ballpark. So I still want to see I'm still trying to level the playing field, but I think that we need to have more smaller franchises and corporations, because you can make a lot of money with 20 units.
Well,
right?
And I think so. There's obviously there's an economical upside or financial upside for a franchisee in our business, or for us as a franchisor as we grow, right? As they grow from 1 truck to 10, they're probably going to make more money, right? As we grow, the business will probably make more money, although we've talked about new costs along the way too. But the other thing that the franchise model does allow you to do is get your product or business, like you're saying, that you might love. Maybe you're not a Dunkin's guy, but maybe there's these smaller businesses. You're like, well, man, if it started in Austin, Texas, how do I get it in New Hampshire? Well, it might be via the franchise model, because if it's not, the corporate location's first choice may not be New Hampshire. You know what I mean? So it allows the kind of spread of lobster rolls or of other products, be it, food or not in another industry. And I think it allows the opportunity to get to other markets more quickly. It doesn't mean they need to be 5,000 units or lose that really meaningful thing that was their first couple of units.
So what is the biggest challenge in scaling a franchise, do you think?
Well, I would say that, again, when we left those first trucks and we franchised, we got back on the plane, Saban and myself, like, oh my gosh, it's like give them your baby. We didn't even have kids.
This was
at the
in
time.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Why was it? Was it a person in Arizona that you thought would be a good franchise?
We had a Phoenix franchisee that opened, and that was in 2015. No longer there, but that was the moment where you're like, again, we didn't have kids, but we're like, this is probably what it feels like if you left your baby in some city and got back on a plane, because it was everything we were about that you worked years for. And now you're giving it to someone else, and you need to hope or believe that what you've set in place for infrastructure, training, compliance, which again we didn't know. So in our infancy, like that, they uphold the integrity and reputation of your business and brand when you're gone. Right? It's the same thing you were saying about the manager. Does that manager wake up and really care and show up, and does he care if the customer's upset? So that same thing with franchising, that's the hardest part, was that when you give this set of keys to somebody else for your truck and your look and your feel and your product and your name and your brand, to know that they would run it like Jim and Saban did in 2012, that's the hardest part. And I think as we wrapped our heads around that, that's where we had to invest more time and money and manpower in that early on, even if royalties weren't flowing in, to say we got to have a crew of compliance and training that is always there and monitoring from afar and on site, to make sure that Cousins trucks in Dallas is the same as Pittsburgh, is the same as Detroit, same as LA.
So consistency across all these locations.
Yeah. And I don't mean just food quality. I mean the person in the window,
right?
And the cleanliness of the truck.
Well, when I asked what the biggest challenge, I was curious if it was going to be finding the right franchisee. Sure, you can pay us the entry fee to become whatever it's called. What's it called? Franchise. What's the
franchise fee?
Franchise fee to join our franchise group. I don't even know the right legal jargon to use, honestly, when it comes to franchise. I'm still learning this whole world of franchises. But are you the right person? Do you have the same core values? Are you going to treat it like we treat it? Like really taking the time to get to know that person, that they're a right culture fit when they're just trying to hand you money and get going, right?
Well, you're right. The more simple answer would have been finding the right franchisee, just like we say about our staff. I took it a couple steps forward and said, once you have the right franchisee, that's the belief now that you're getting that consistency because you chose the right franchisee. So we have so much vetting and processes in place now where we feel really good, and a lot of it ends up being our gut. But we do have a lot of it. I mean, there's people from 10 years ago we turned down, to your point, that were throwing money. Like, hey, man, we're two dudes from Maine. Like, glad that you have money. Like, we didn't, so we're not going to go sell you a truck because you have money, because we know that you probably won't figure it out. And throwing money at a food truck doesn't solve the problem. Right. It doesn't create sales, doesn't create great service, doesn't create great bookings. You'll be closed before you open. And so we knew we didn't want that. We knew that we didn't want people with egos or that didn't fit the kind of fabric of what our business was. And we couldn't even always explain what it was. It's just sitting down and having a conversation with someone. This doesn't feel right.
It's a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that would have been detrimental. And not to say we haven't had those, but you learn from those and you kind of fine tune what you're looking for.
So how many units did you open in Phoenix?
Just one.
Just one
food truck. Yeah.
So in 2015, you had 5 food trucks.
Yeah, that was our very first franchise.
And then from 2015 to 2018, you went to 15 cities and 32 food trucks. So you grew fast in 3 years. Mm-hmm. We're going to take a break to thank our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what that next 3 years was like.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now, Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We are back, and we just got to the point in your timeline, your story, where you have your first franchisee in Phoenix that had 2 units, you said, and then from there you go from 6 units to 32 units in 3 years across 15 cities. Mm-hmm. So, where were you? What was the strategy? Take us to that point where you're just like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. we were in an office much like this, actually, in Los Angeles, myself, my cousin, and Sean Higgins, our president. And we had a social media woman at the time who'd run like all of our accounts for our new franchisees coming on board and ourselves. So 4 of us. And I think between saving myself and Sean, what we knew, I don't want to say we unlocked, but what we realized is that we were dealing with people. Like, our franchisees were people. They were humans, and they were part of our family now. And it wasn't so much that they worked for us, we worked for them. And our hours got long, and we knew that we'd had to figure everything out operationally to make sure that when they're opening, we're going to be ready to rock with everything and anything they want. And there's a huge learning curve there to say, well, we have this or we don't have that, right? But once we didn't have something or we didn't know something, we made sure that it made its way into our ops manual. It made its way into something that's a deliverable for them to make them better.
Yeah.
That we would always pick up a phone call, and that they were on the ride. You know, they were starting their journey with us. They were an early adopter, an OG, as we call them, a Cousins Maine Lobster, one of those first franchisees that signed on. And we needed to make sure that nothing was falling through the cracks. And I think truly it was just the 3, really, me, Saban, Sean, saying, okay, well, this is the focus and this has got to work. And we need to make sure that we are armed with everything and anything to make sure these guys are successful,
Right.
these men and women.
I feel like it's like anything else. You just start and 1% better every day. Yeah. And like when you first started, you didn't have a register.
Yeah.
I'm sure by day 2 you had a register. You know? Yeah. So like when you hit these walls, you go, what happened there?
Yeah.
And how do we fix it so it doesn't happen again? And then you just then you document it. And you document it. And like you just fill the holes.
Yeah. Well, our ops manual that started with 28 pages is now it's like 3 phone books thick.
If this, then that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you're right. Like, it's not rocket science. It's documenting. A lot of documenting, and not like in a negative or bad way, being like, boom, this happened. Here's a solution.
Right.
When this happens, here's what we do. And then it was having the foresight, I think, to say, okay, well, we have franchisees that have signed on and they're ready to open in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, right? That growth you saw in those 3 years. We need to make sure that it's not just Jim, Saban, and Sean and our social media woman in the office, right? It needed to be people. You don't need to go overspend on staffing and payroll, but you need to make sure that you have a team that is ready to deliver on what we said. We want to be an asset to the franchisees. Still to this day, we want to make sure that they're leaning on us, calling on us, and that we are doing the same, and we're outworking them when they're ready to kind of tango, And that's what I think that we did. We found some key pieces, and then you find that those key pieces can support the infrastructure or the franchisee numbers that we have. And then as they grow, we need more key pieces. And then it eventually is the point where you got to hire those, key people on your team before the growth, like while you're anticipating some future growth, to make sure that they have time to train, onboard, learn all of their stuff, be part of our kind of culture and fabric, and fit in seamlessly with our relations with the franchisees.
Got it. So when you were growing that first, or I should say from 2015 to 2018, when you went from that massive growth in a short period of time, were you focused on recruiting franchisees or were you focused on markets?
It's a good question. We used to think that Cousins Maine Lobster could work anywhere, so therefore, and we still do think that, but we didn't target a specific geographical area, right? It's kind of when you look at a map, like where we are and how we ended up there. We were targeting people.
Yeah.
Again, we wanted the best people that fit our business, that were going to uphold the reputation and run a successful business and make us proud to have our name in that city, and make them proud to have our name on their back. So we'd look at those people. So just because that person is from Pittsburgh and it rains there, and it can be a wintry mix, and it can get cold, and it's less disposable income than maybe.
Still want lobster.
They still want lobster.
Yeah.
And if that person is a person we believe in, then they'll find a way to make it work, and they did. And that was one of our biggest things, because we started out west. We hit Texas. We hit Phoenix. Warm weather. What was going to happen when we go to Boston, New York, Connecticut?
How
Yeah,
long
well,
did it
so
take
were
you to
we.
get to those markets?
We were about, I want to say 2018 in those markets in New York. Boston was like 2019. No, 2020, right during COVID. And they performed so well. And all markets for different reasons. Obviously, the driving force behind this are the entrepreneurs, are the franchisees, that they are the right people, the right fit. But it just goes to show, it's like, just because you have a lobster roll doesn't mean you need it in sunny LA at 75-degree weather. Like, it can be in the snow in a pea coat here in Boston. It could be in the rain in Philly, and in the raw bitterness of the cold winters. And that's totally different by each neighborhood and market and demographics that we go to.
Well, here's the thing too. You're also operating food trucks, which generally have better operating, conditions, not in the Northeast. Like, you can have a food truck in LA 12 months out of the year. Yep. No problem. You can't do that in New Hampshire. You can't do that in Boston, right? You can't,
we do.
But I mean, it's hard though, right?
It's hard, but again, I think those are one of the things we learned, because we probably were thinking the same thing you did. Oh man, it's going to be hard in Boston. It's going to be hard in New York. Like, what do you do when it snows 3 feet in New York City and you can't even walk? Never mind try to stick a food truck on a curb, right? But no, Boston specifically, I mean, their 2 trucks are as high in AUVs as anyone throughout the country. So what does that mean? Do they hit it more in spring, summer, fall? Like, some seasonal businesses here that just do the majority of their sales there. But they stay strong in the winter because, again, I think you look at the market. Like, I grew up being cool outside with a pea coat or a sweater or, a sweatshirt and a hoodie and going out in the cold. In LA, when I was there at 75 and like sprinkling, people would have like a sweater on and be like, oh my God, it's getting cold.
Oh my God. I was there last week and it was like 50 degrees and people are losing their mind. This is great.
And I'm not taking a shot at them. I'm just saying that's a real thing. They oftentimes won't go out if it's raining out, sprinkling. So maybe the sales aren't as strong there then. But it's so we had a lot of learning curves like that, and I just think there is a different by each market and by what people are, the expectation of kind of what going out to get food is like.
So how were you recruiting these franchisees? Was that where the majority of your marketing, when you talk about marketing, is it marketing your franchise to franchisees?
Yeah. And to be perfectly frank, like, we weren't spending dollars on it because we didn't know where your best dollar spent was. Like, we've tried some things here and there. We did some work with Facebook, some work with some groups that, kind of speak the game of selling you franchises. There's a lot of brokers out there, but they kind of sometimes don't bring you the best. But we really were relying on what we were doing with Barbara and what we were working on with ourselves, which was what I referenced earlier about Today Show, Good Morning America, finance shows, getting entrepreneur, getting blogs. Yeah.
Did Barbara reach out to me? Who was behind that?
I actually don't
Am
know.
I on Barbara's radar right now? That'd be awesome.
Barbara, are you listening?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's really what we've done. We've kind of played the no. I actually genuinely don't know. I'll call her after this. We just played the PR game to say we just want to keep sharing our story because we felt like we always had a hook or a story or something new, be it a city or a product or a book or a TV show or something that we could share, and that kind of keeps you in the spotlight, not for ego's sake, not for anything, but sharing. We're Cousins Maine Lobster. This is who we are. This is where our units are. And maybe there's going to be a unit near you. And that could oftentimes, elicit new inquiries.
Right. So it looks like you slowed down on the brick and mortars. It looks like you put a lot of energy into that. Got 8 locations. I know you had 1 international. Do you still have that Taiwan location?
No, we do not. That closed during COVID.
Okay.
The story behind the brick and mortar is actually pretty simple. We started it right before 2 years before COVID. So it was still years after the truck, right? So it hadn't been perfected like the trucks have, with 11 years now. But the real thing with the brick and mortars is that we originally did this to say, hey, if you want to diversify your portfolio, you can have a truck or multiple trucks and say, I want to do a restaurant here. We also knew that what we've seen now that we're going to start at someday getting the profile of franchisees who just want their 4 walls, right? They have Dunkin's or Wendy's or, Valvoline or whatever, and they operate in the retail space, and so they want a restaurant. They want to give an address, and they don't want to do the truck business. But what was interesting is that as a younger franchisor, meaning myself and Sabin, when you have a franchisee who's been successful with a food truck for 1 or 2 years and then says, hey, I think I have an A+ location that we should do a restaurant right here in Nashville or name the city, we had that kind of trust and belief to say, okay, well, yeah, let's go down this road. It wasn't with the exact right steps of the real estate groups and the real data and information to say this is what validates this being an A+ location that's going to derive or that's going to produce X amount of sales that's going to make the franchisee happy. So what happened is we used locations for those first 4 or 5 restaurants that just would not have been restaurants that we choose today. It was more of conversation with our trust and our relationship with the franchisee, which is a blessing and a curse because we have that trust, but also neither of us had the real data and information to validate that being the right choice for a physical location.
Got it. I mean, my first gut reaction to having a lobster concept like yours in a physical brick and mortar is that the overhead is so low because you're really not cooking. Like the food is being, like the meat's being, your primary like profit generator is being sent to you cooked. So you're kind of just putting it together, right? So you don't need a hood, I would imagine.
Well, we do have a hood because
of
we
the bisque?
well, actually the buttering of just even the buns of the quesadillas
really?
and tacos. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. That'd be nice if we didn't have a hood.
I was
It would save some money.
because like you just don't need a lot of space. So
Yeah.
you can do high volume and you have low rent because you don't necessarily need the huge facility to execute what you're doing. Again, the power of focusing all of your energy on one thing is a small footprint.
Yeah.
Right? So I was just kind of curious as to why.
No, yeah. I mean, listen, the one we've done right, which is kind of our flagship at this point, and the most recent restaurant opened a year and a half ago in Asbury Park in New Jersey, which bangs it out. It's a great location right on the boardwalk, picturesque, beautiful, has the bell curve, with the seasons, like a lot of oceanside towns. But that one hustles and it's great, and we did things correctly there. We're opening one in San Francisco as well, right on the water.
So what are the correct things to do that you've learned that are correct versus what isn't correct?
Yeah. So we've made sure that this one is really data driven with analytics. Your heat maps, your geographies, your population density, your income levels, your tourism versus locals. Your street traffic, your parking, like a lot of things that is above my pay grade when it comes to these groups that are going to make you feel really confident about the location.
So I know I'm not going to have you share those numbers because they're relative to the concept.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So your numbers aren't going to work for every concept. But where did you go to figure out how to do this right?
So we, again, it was kind of like saying, hey, this wasn't working. We didn't make the right steps. So then I just made a lot of calls to ultimately some friends that I went to Exeter with that were in some real estate space, and they'd pass you on to someone else, and Barbara obviously helped us with some groups, and now we have some development in-house that we've been doing with a woman that we had hired who was previously at the Wendy's organization for 14 years and has a lot of experience in the space.
Are there any tools, resources, companies that you outsource to help guide you that you can kind of make us aware of? Maybe people I could get on the show in the future to go deeper into the subject?
There are, well, we're kind of in the middle of a few different groups, but there are real estate groups, brokers, right? That you need to know where kind of they're on board with you and that they specialize in markets you're looking at. But then even more specifically, there are those analytical groups that provide the information of the maps, the heat maps, the population density, even some mobile traffic that can help you understand. To your point, it's not one size fits all, but it's like, hey, well, what about the seafood concepts around here? Or what about, the other industries?
Is there a hole in the market?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And so it's really taking a lot of that data and then saying, again, even that's not bulletproof. You got to mix it with feet on the ground of saying there's an art, there's a science, or there's, data involved here. And then there's what your eyes see. So a lot of that is what we're doing too locally at those levels to say, it's just like the gut check with awarding a franchisee. Everything looks good on paper, maybe with this location, but something either seems really right or something seems off with it when you get there.
So the last kind of like pin in in our timeline, like our mark on the timeline is 2018. Again, 15 cities, 32 locations. Today, I keep on forgetting the current numbers. 62 total units.
62 trucks and 8 restaurants.
62 total trucks, 8 restaurants. So you kind of put the hold on brick and mortar locations. And how many cities did you say?
47 cities.
Yep. So doubled in the past basically 6 years during a pandemic too. So had there been any major evolutionary, like what was the biggest challenge for you over the most recent 6 years?
What it was is, well, a couple things. One, COVID was potentially a big one for everybody in the world. Of course, from a bunch of different reasons, but on the business side, we were wondering if, sales were going to go way down and if we'd even have a business anymore. What we found was that the food truck, the mobility In fact, just by the nature of it, it was outside. People could come stand, never mind 6 feet, stand 600 feet from each other if you wanted to. There were no touch points.
You weren't as restricted. There was all the restrictions in the inside, like you can't go like so many like volumes.
Right. We had no restrictions.
Yeah.
Because we were serving outside.
Yeah.
So that really went well. So we literally changed our marketing scheme. Instead of saying, hey, we're going to this business park or we're going where people used to be, we found vacant places. We found retail joints that were shut down. We found dirt parking lots in Vegas. Yeah, come sit in your car, sit at a picnic table, stand outside, stand away from people. We also developed and launched a mobile app. So think of Starbucks mobile app, pre-order app. That's what we have. It was ready to launch probably 5 months after COVID, but we expedited it because of COVID happening.
Right.
And it made things go, wild because people could do everything without touching anything on the truck or an iPad or anything, and it was all on their phone. It made orders even more specific and more
So would the
efficient.
delivery come to wherever the truck was? So and you just change your address?
This is just, you could be sitting in your car or driving to us, put your order in on your phone, and it's ready out the back door when you get there. So even if there was a group of people milling around,
you could come and go pretty quick.
Yeah,
Hold
zip
your
in,
breath.
zip out. Yeah. So that was right. We also evolved in the space of digital. We now have 85-inch TVs on all of our newer trucks that really are showing even more of a story from Maine.
Before we get into the TVs and the digital, when talking about apps, so I used to kind of play this game. I was like, why? There was this argument going back maybe, 6 years ago. Like, do you really need an app, or is having a robust website that allows people to order from your website, is that enough? I'm starting to see the relevancy of an app now, that there's so many habits being associated with just the apps are getting so good that it's getting to the point where you can just open the app and like within like the first tap of the app to like checking out, it's like 3 or 4 taps and it's habitual. So like, and there's machine learning, so it knows you and what you want and like the store you're going to. So it does save a lot of. There's a lot less resistance, I think is the word I'm.
Well, yeah, you're right, but also think it's even harder for a food truck because like we could be at a lunch from 11 to 2, and we can't just put on our website 11 to 2 on the app 11 to 2. We've got to have like the tech of the pin speaking to the truck to know that if we close early because the event kicks us out, or if we go a little bit later because there's a line of people, we're there till 2:30. They're actually there till 2:30, and people know that. And then it's got to show and follow your truck to where it goes to dinner. And it can't just be that. And oftentimes we'll change locations because something happens, right? This is whatever. There was an event that canceled, so we found a new event. So it's not like you can just stick in the website calendar. It's got to be like up to date to the minute to show people where and specifically where it is within a massive parking lot or a music venue or whatever it may be. So that alone is worth it for us because it's showing you where your truck is physically to the pin, and then you can order from there.
I could see you being a good candidate to create a custom app. Like, did you go to a developer and create your own app?
Yeah,
can you share who you went to, the company that did the work with you, in case we're in the same market, or like
we're not in the same market?
Not in the same market.
They're not.
I don't think sometimes it's not one. Like, you're a perfect example of not one size fits all, right? Like, there's tools out there like Olo or Chow Now or Owner.com that have
like
kind
we
of
spoke to Olo.
Yeah,
but they couldn't figure out the truck thing.
Exactly. So like that's a perfect.
Right.
I know BevDev, or like there's a company that reached out to me recently that like they do custom. They work with like custom developer. Like if you're a unique concept that doesn't fit nicely into one of these already existing like frameworks, right?
Yeah.
Bari Vev, is that
doesn't ring a bell to me. Also, I don't do this anymore. It's Jameson on our team that does all the tech.
Okay.
It's well above my head. But I remember the group. I actually don't even know the name of the group right now off the top of my head. But they're across seas, and they've been pretty. They've adapted and been pretty flexible with us because I think they've seen that upside. And a lot of those other groups, to your point, in the first conversations, like, oh no, we can figure it out. We're going to be flexible, But then you go down the rabbit hole a little bit and. Matter of fact, it doesn't work with food trucks. So there's a lot of work and kind of nuance and time that's gone into that.
I'm trying to find the name because there's this company that reached out to me, and I know they worked with Just Salads, and that was mentioned during the Just Salads episode. Anyway, it's not that important.
Yeah.
But really what I'm trying to do with this question is help good people connect with good people.
Yeah.
So like if you need something developed, were you happy
Right.
with the service, and would you recommend them? Is basically
Yeah. And I actually have to get that from Jameson, the group, because it's right now I'm blanking on it. But to answer your question about am I happy with them, in the long term, yes. But I think there's definitely growing pains in the beginning because, it might be a smaller undertaking for them, but it's really important to us. So oftentimes you have conflicts there saying, well, hey, we want you to develop these things. And they're like, well, I want you to be bigger, be doing more volume. And eventually we kind of all get there together. So that was a kind of a growing pain that's been really, really good in the last few years.
Got it. So let me ask you this, like over the past 6 years, from like the additional growth, the world we're living in is changing. As you scale as an organization, you have different pain points as you scale. Like, what do you want to talk about as far as things that you think you should talk to with the time we have left?
Yeah, well, I think, for us, it's, I think we've done the business for the right reason from day one, right? It was a passion project. It was recreating our childhood. And we were going to have one food truck and keep our jobs. And we stumbled upon cash that night that's turned into growth in the business from our corporate units, and then franchising came and we learned another thing and we developed that and fine-tuned it and honed it in, and now that has been growing and taking off. And I guess my point with that is saying, like, I guess whether it's lesson or thought, is like I'd always try and do business. It sounds so cheesy, but like to do business the right way and for the right reason, because I feel like that's when it comes back to you. I think we've never chased money, be it franchise fees or people that could have afforded trucks but might have buried them, or might have been bad for the franchisee around them or not upheld the quality of the brand. But I think for us, we've just kind of done things methodically in the right way. And there's been some decent growth, to your point, but we've chosen the right people. And when we haven't, we've taken it off the chin and said, okay, well, we got to fix this and make it right to keep the culture and the fabric, that feeling that everyone's excited about, the right way. And we've done it from the service side and from the food side. So I just think that if you have the opportunity to do the thing the right way, and if you ever have success or you feel like you're on cloud nine, you're not. You'll be knocked down again.
Yeah.
So hold to those laurels and those standards and those ethics of continuing to do it the right way, because that's what I think kind of gives back. And the other thing for us is that because we kind of started with literally no expectation, we took the leap and we knew we had to make it work to create a little living for ourselves. But that's the excitement still 11 years later. People kind of ask me, why are you still doing it? Like, what's next? Or what are you going to, like, no, this is what's next. Yeah. Like our next thing is more cities with the trucks, more growth in the restaurant that we kind of stumbled on in the beginning. Our e-commerce business where we ship out of Maine nationwide is a huge business, smaller for us, but it's got to grow. So those are the things that are the excitement that comes with that. Isn't just seeing, Cousins Maine Lobster is opening this city. Like, that's humbling. But it's knowing that because of these Cousins that are opening up, we're creating more jobs from our corporate staff, and we're creating more promotions and raises and whatever it may be, because we're growing and we try to give back to our team and grow our team. Be like, wow, this is special and it's cool and it's happening. This person's great, and they're adding. They have a division in the business now that we never had a year ago because we got large enough where it can support a marketing person or whomever, and that's fun because you create some, I don't want to say change, you create some opportunity for people and ourselves and our franchisees. And that's been one of our biggest growth modes, is internal growth of the franchisees. The current franchisees we have say, I want a new market, I want another unit, I want a restaurant. That means they're healthy in their bottom lines. They like the business. They like us. Like it's kind of harmonious and working.
Yeah, if you can give more more opportunity to fewer relationships, I think that's impact. Mm-hmm. And when like why? As soon as you start adding more relationships, we can only handle so many relationships as a human. So why give that relationship to another, or that opportunity to a new relationship? That's just one more relationship you have to manage. Right. Why not give that opportunity to somebody who's already within the four walls or within the organization? I think that's literally depth. Yeah. That's putting your energy into fewer people, going deeper with them, providing more opportunity and having an impact.
Right. Well, when this probably airs, we will literally on Friday, we just awarded a new deal with a current franchisee for a multi-unit setup, and I can't announce it now because I don't know when this will, but shortly after, it's a new market and it's big growth for them, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool because I remember saying to my wife, when we were dating, right? She's like, are we ever gonna, because I just work in 2012, 13, 14, was starting. We didn't really do much in terms of like going out for dates. Sometimes I didn't see each other all the time, and I'd be like, but I got to get from one truck to two, and then we got to get from 2 to 3, right? For financial reasons to go do things, but also to have a little bit of freedom where you feel like, okay, I can take like one day a month and go out to dinner with you and like turn the phone off. You see that same thing happening with franchisees when they like go from one truck to 2 to 3, and then they have 4 or 5, and then all of a sudden it's a new market, and then they have these regional managers popping up, and then they're elevating their own game to say, okay, well now I get this big picture. Where am I growing? Where am I going? How am I executing? And yet there are people that might have started with their day one truck manager is now running the operation.
I love that, man.
Special.
So when I first started this conversation with you, I was sitting on this question thinking to myself, I don't think opening a food truck or starting a food truck in 2024 is the same as it was in 2012. I think the landscape of food trucks has changed a lot. The regulations have come down a lot, which I'm sure you've experienced in your existence as a food truck operator. And it's a much more complex, complicated, or more competition. Wow, I'm really struggling. There's way more competition for with food trucks, say too. So the curbsides are going away, right? So I think the other variable too is that food trucks logistically are not easy. If you have just a couple food trucks and you're operating out of commissary, like knowing what you know today, you said you'd still go the food truck route. Why do you think food trucks are right for you, and do you think they're right for everybody?
No, I don't think they're right for everybody. But the reason that I would do it, and when I say I mean we, Cousins Maine Lobster, and franchisees we find, is because, one, we've proven it for 12 years now. We know what we're doing. We've mastered it. The truck itself, like, yeah, you're right. There are complications with the truck that I think we've minimized in a lot of ways because we've seen 12 years of what can go wrong. So how do we fix that on the build originally to where it's not happening nearly as much? But really because we're driving like crazy sales out of these food trucks. Like the AUVs are very high. We're above 1.4 million. Those compete with some very strong restaurants that are moving a much lower ticket. And are probably satisfying more customers in terms of who will eat their food. But when you look at it, the operation being small food truck, 2 or 3 people inside. So I think every job is hard. So maybe it's hard with the complexities of the truck or booking the truck or the commissary, but it's proven in the way that it's doing sales and can have a nice bottom line for franchisees. And once you see that, you can get your money back. You know what I mean? Like your investment, you can feel your investment coming back to you. And if you go, hey man, I want to do another one because I want to double my sales or triple my sales, you can get that baby on the road in 3 or 4 months. And that's the difference between building out a restaurant. So I think economically it's been a pretty nice setup. But then that's why we're having the restaurants as well, to diversify your own portfolio within CML.
Are all the food trucks exactly the same? Are you working with the same manufacturer?
Yep. Now, given the one from 4 years ago is different than the one from 4 days ago,
right? Because
we've made upgrades along the way, but
constantly improving, 1% better every day.
But I mean, it's for the most part, the last few years they've been 90% the same, but there's been some pretty.
And that's a great point
changes
that I didn't take into consideration. You have it so dialed in that like when you get that new franchisee, or if that franchisee says we have bandwidth for a new food truck, pull the trigger. 4 months later, they're in business.
Yep.
Like you don't have to go site location, you don't have to build out. Like you have literally an assembly line someplace where they're just cranking these things out.
Right. So if your hardest thing on the truck is that this county or this brewery doesn't let you in because they don't want a food truck on site, or they don't, they have a restriction against that. Well, it's that, or it could take you a year to 2 years to build a restaurant in certain places for X, Y, and Z reasons. Then you got to make sure it's right. So that's not me saying I don't believe in the restaurants, because I do. We have proof in the pudding now. It's just saying that the trucks are quick and easy in the sense of getting up and on the road. And at the true sense of, to me, what an entrepreneur is, it's just a sexy word for working hard.
Yeah.
The truck is great. It's a low cost to get in, still relatively, right? It's costing about $240, $250 now to get for a food truck.
Yeah, the cost is going crazy.
But you can go. I mean, you don't need to be a chef trained, back of the house, 10 years experience. You can be a young kid out of college. You could be anyone. We have stay-at-home moms. We have former lawyers. We have former doctors, former insurance people that are just sitting there going, hey, we're going to listen and be trained our way. We're going to hop on a truck for a lower cost investment, and we're going to go bang out as many places as we can in our market where we grew up and live, and we know this community, and they do sales.
we're gonna start to wrap it up. I've really loved this conversation, man. I want to respect. I could probably do another hour with you, if I'm being honest. But I want to respect your
Tell
time.
my wife. That's fine. I'll call her.
Yeah.
She's got tubby time for the kids.
So one question I want to start asking all my guests is essentially what makes you unstoppable? What is one thing that you do in the four walls of your franchise locations that like I could put a camera on and like document this is what we do that's unstoppable?
I guess if I had to say one thing, I'd say that inside our four walls, I'd say that we're just tenacious, that we won't be beat. And that means for competition, but it also means for our franchisees, we're here to support and be an asset to them every day to make them better, make them successful. When they're having a hard time, figure it out, get through it. So our team, I think, is committed to being tenacious until something's wrong is better, or until something right is, through the moon. That's kind of what I think we bring to the table to make sure we're always supporting and making everyone and ourselves better.
I love that. The mission statement of Restaurant Unstoppable, I always try to echo it as much as possible, is to change the world through inspiring, empowering, and changing the restaurant industry. So on that note, I believe that if we're going to execute this mission, it's going to start with one owner at a time, transforming one owner at a time. So how have you personally transformed? Who's the Jim today versus the Jim back in 2012 when you were first getting started?
Yeah, well, it's a good question because there's a couple different dimensions of that, in my opinion. There's the Jim who knew what I wanted as a customer, which, like I told you, is it's got to be a 10 for food, and you've got to treat me like a human being, right? Like what was said, treated like our mothers, right? Because my mom would be frazzled with, how's a credit card machine and what's in the Connecticut roll? So like, be sweet, be nice, be kind. Like that's lost on a lot of people, right? So that's why I said earlier, like it's just some of the simple things don't get done. So, but the business side of things for me, I think is, I probably was maybe a little more steadfast, not steadfast in ways, but a little bit more just kind of like the business mind of maybe what I got from medical device sales and previous generations, but before us, of like, this is the way it's got to be, it's black or white, and less leniencies or forgivenesses. But now I think if you look at the last 4 or 5 years, the way the world is going, times have changed. And I think that what you need and what we've learned is that you need a happy team and you need a happy staff. And that's really, really hard to accomplish. And I think that comes from leadership. So it'll be that me and Saban or Sean and our team to make sure that everyone is happy and feeling part of it. And they'll work their faces off for you if they have that good culture and you have the right people. And I think the same is true for franchisees. When our franchisees had hard times with staffing or payroll and they couldn't go out with a truck because they didn't have people to work, it wasn't about staffing or payroll, and it wasn't about their hourly pay. It's usually about the owners. And do you like who you're working for? And I think that's like a real big takeaway for me that I've learned in these last probably 4 or 5 years, is that so much today is, do you like who you're working for? It's not about people chasing $1 more an hour or $2 more an hour or financial gain. It's much about the culture, the feel, the fit. That's what motivates them to work and care and kind of bleed the business.
At the end of the day, we're humans, and we are tribal and we need other people to survive.
Yeah.
And money is great, but at a certain point you will never get enough of it to be but relationships, we know, make people happy. It's powerful. Great. This is the last question before we have you call somebody out. But if you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure. With the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom that you could leave behind for the good of humanity and your legacy, what would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
Well, I would say have humility.
1.
Yep. I would say be fearless.
2.
And I would say never stop learning.
3. This has been a lot of fun, Jim. Who do you respect and admire? Like if I got them on the show to do what you did for us today, that's an episode you'd absolutely be tuning into.
Yeah. Well, the person that comes into mind who's been a friend of ours for a long time and a huge impact on our business is Kat Cole. She is
Focus Brands?
Focus Brands. Yeah, well, formerly she is now I think president and CEO at AG1.
Yes.
But was her story starts as a
That's Athletic Greens, right?
Athletic Greens, yeah. But she her whole real claim is starting as
She's
a
on my
Hooters
radar.
waitress.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that's kind of how her when she was, I think, 17 and 18, how she got her start in the restaurant industry in the space, and how she quickly rose in the Hooters ranks. In the management side and executive side, and just a wealth of knowledge. And it's funny because in our early years we would be on the phone with her too much, or she'd be like, guys, just not just listen to me, but like, we've talked about this before, this is the way this is the way you do it. You gotta, like, it's kind of that growth, that little kind of creating that muscle, that franchise muscle, and she helped us develop that muscle a lot. And just a wealth of knowledge. Everyone here would sit there with their jaws open listening to her. But just, and a wonderful human being. Great
I actually
family,
have her phone number, Robert St. John. Thank you. I don't know if you know who that is. He called her out. He connected me with her.
Okay.
So she is absolutely on my radar, and I'm sitting on it because I haven't been to Atlanta to get her on recently. But I'm coming at you from all angles.
I'm happy to help you.
I'd love to get her on the show. She sounds like, and this is why I'm letting my guests steer the ship, because there's patterns.
For sure.
Like the people who are respected and are doing amazing things, who make time for other people, those are the people that get recommended on the show. And I'm really excited for this new direction we're going in to, like, take the podcast full time on the road.
Yeah, well, congrats to you.
Thank you.
It's been awesome.
Yeah. And if we enjoyed today's conversation and we're open to the idea of franchising, we're looking for opportunities, what's the best way to get in touch with you for future opportunities?
Yeah, cousinsmainelobster.com. And there's just a franchise request tab at the top, if that's what you're referring to.
Yep.
And then literally that's how it all starts. That inquiry turns into an email to our team, and we reach right back out and schedule a call.
Social handles you want to put out there?
At CM Lobster, Instagram, same for Facebook, corporate, but we have Facebook handles all throughout the country in every city. But at CM Lobster is Instagram.
Got it. And this is episode 1042. Head over to restaurantstoppable.com/1042. We'll have a summary of today's discussion, as well as any links to tools and services recommended, and how to connect with the CM Lobster dudes. This has been so much fun, Jim. Thank you so much. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable. We'll cut it there.